What is up? Welcome back to all the smoke. Today we got the NBA offseason. Might as well get right into it. So I'm gonna go team by team here. Go through their offseason moves, free agency specifically, a couple of trades. Look over those. So should be a fun episode. Started off the Atlanta Hawks. I'd say their biggest move was probably their trade for Kristaps Porzingis. I think it was a great move for them. They didn't really give up that much to get Kristaps Porzingis, who was in a contract year, probably very motivated to play well. Should fit in well with Trae Young. Isn't a horrible defender, so I think that'll be great for him. And Kristaps and the Hawks, I think that was a great move. They added Nickeil Walker-Alexander. That helps their depth a lot, even though I think they paid quite a bit for him, but that helps their depth out. So that's fun. I think this could be contending season for them based on how it goes. I do think that Trae Young is still a great player. They have Dyson Daniels, Zachary Reese-Shea, and Jalen Johnson, who's been very strong. And now they got Kristaps, Nickeil Walker-Alexander for depth. I think they could be a very solid team and top 5 in the East. I mean, they made it to an Eastern Conference Finals with Trae a while ago. It was like 2020, 2021 or something. So I think this could be their year where they finally get back. And all those rumors saying that they should have traded Trae Young so long ago are over because they built the team around him. But we'll see. The Celtics. Niang wasn't the best return for the Celtics in the Kristaps trade. He's still solid. But I would have liked to see more for someone of Porzingis' caliber. So I would have liked to see more, but the Celtics needed to get under the second apron. That's why they did both trades. And I like it. I think he was the guy to move. I do not think they should move Jaylen Brown. I really like the Anthony Simons trade. Getting him and a pick for Jrue Holiday is a total steal. I'm not sure what the Trailblazers were doing there. They are taking on Jrue Holiday and his contract, keeping up Anthony Simons, and 2 second-round picks. That's just ridiculous. Simons can be a very good scorer. He'll drop 30 any night while Tatum is out. He's a good shooter. So he'll fit right in Boston. And they have defense with Derek White, so they'll be fine without Jrue Holiday, I think. Holiday had like one of his worst seasons of his career. Simons will be fine. They got 2 second-round picks. Great deal for the Celtics. Move on to the Brooklyn Nets. They got another first-round pick in the Cam Johnson trade. I like their involvement in the Kristaps trade. Pretty much got a free first-round pick for nothing in that deal. So, great move there. There's not much else to say. They're keeping Deron Sharp, Nick Claxton, and Danny Wolf. Seems like an overstock at center. I do not like that. I think they should trade Nick Claxton and then see what Deron Sharp brings and develop Danny Wolf. Because Danny Wolf seems like he can be a player similar to a Nikola Jokic, as in he can pass the ball well and is a playmaker and can also score and do other things very well. I like Danny Wolf coming out of the draft, but I don't think he'll do too well if he's buried under Nick Claxton and Deron Sharp. The Charlotte Hornets, Colin Sexton could still be a solid player. Colin Sexton is only 26 years old, so he could still develop a little bit, and he could be very solid next to LaMelo, Con Knippel, and Brandon Miller. So, or he can just be more of a rotational piece, but he can score. Otherwise, the Hornets have not done much else. The Bulls, from the Bulls' standpoint, the Lonzo Okoro trade was very dumb. Trading Lonzo Ball, who is a solid shooter and a good defender, for Isaac Okoro, who is an okay rotational piece does not make any sense at all. And that was literally it. That was the trade. Lonzo for Okoro, not smart from the Bulls. I like keeping Trey Jones. They could maybe trade Kobe White. They need to go full rebuild mode. And I think if you trade Kobe White, Patrick Williams, I think that's a good start. You need to start over with the group you have now, which is Madas Buzelis, Noah Senge, that group, and none of the old stuff. Then you go to the other team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Getting Lonzo to replace Ty Jerome was great. Keeping Sam Merrill is also a plus. I think he's a good shooter and a good rotational piece, depth for the Cavs. And Lonzo, I believe, is better than Ty Jerome, provides more defense, and should be better in the playoffs. So I like that deal for them. The Mavs, they re-signed Kyrie. That needed to happen. Dante Exum could still have some upside for sure. And D'Angelo Russell. I love that move. $13 million to get D'Angelo Russell, who it will be a very solid starting point guard until Kyrie gets back, and then he could take the bench role. I love that deal for them. The Nuggets signed Bruce Brown. He was a big part of their championship team back in 2023. So I like that deal. Obviously, him now playing with Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. And I think they totally won the Cam Johnson trade. He's better and cheaper and more reliable than MPJ. Cam Johnson can give you a bucket when Jokic is out. MPJ ain't going to do that. Johnson is almost just as good as a three-point shooter. He's better defensively. And he's a much better player overall than Michael Porter Jr. for less money. So it made total sense for the Nuggets to do that. Then the other deal that they made was trading Dario Saric for Jonas Valanciunas. That is somehow correct. How do you turn Dario Saric into Jonas Valanciunas? It's the best backup center that Jokic has ever had, which will be huge. It'll give Jokic a rest during the regular season, during the playoffs. He won't have to play 40 minutes a game because there's no backup center behind him. Valanciunas is one of the best backup centers in the league. It's a great steal, great move for the Denver Nuggets. The Detroit Pistons, they really only made two moves. They signed Duncan Robinson and Karis LeVert. Both of them will give them more depth in shooting behind Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Asar Thompson. So I think Duncan Robinson will help them out a lot. Detroit they're like the 19th ranked team from three-pointers in the league. Duncan shot almost 40% from deep last year. Great move from them. LeVert has been solid for the Cavs. He'll be solid with the Pistons too. The Warriors, they might need to find a new center without Looney. Depends on how much they trust Quentin Post and Trace Jackson Davis. Looney has been their starting center for a while. So Quentin Post, if they believe he is that dude, and Trace Jackson Davis is a good enough backup behind him, they could be solid. And they won't need another center. But we'll see. They could definitely make a move for a backup center. The Rockets, I like the KD trade because the Rockets needed a bucket. They needed somebody who can go out, who can score. They didn't need leadership. Ime Udoka has that. They don't need defense. They need someone who can get a bucket in the half-court offense. That's what they struggled with against the Warriors. Kevin Durant will do that for them. He's been doing that his whole career. He's never been a leader. That's covered. He's never been a great defender. They're fine. And I think during the regular season, because this team has so much depth and it's pretty young, he won't have to play a ton, and he's not going to be expected to score 30 points every night. Şengün can do that. I think Kevin Durant will be great. The Rockets will be contenders. People forget they were the second seed in the West this year. They can be the second seed in the West again this year, as they were last year. I still think the Thunder will have a better regular season, but they can definitely challenge the Thunder in the playoffs. I love that they kept all their other players that were in free agency. Fred VanVleet, very important. Jabari Smith Jr., Steven Adams. I think it's very important that they kept those, and they did. So, Jeff Green, not as important, but just Sean Tate, more depth. Again, the more depth you have, the more players you have, it's great. Clint Capella was an amazing addition. And they also got Dorian Finney-Smith, who will fill the Dylan Brooks role for sure. I think now you have Steven Adams, Clint Capella, and Alperen Sengun. They can match up with anybody. They can rotate those three guys out as much as they want. They can play two centers. They can play a one center. They have length, size, athleticism. They have leadership. They have ball handling. Although I would like to see them get another ball handler other than Fred VanVleet. But I think they'll be okay. So the Pacers, they did not end up going into the luxury tax to keep Miles Turner. That sucks for Pacers fans. I'm not sure how good your team is going to be this year. With Halliburton out pretty much the whole season. Miles Turner's now gone. You have Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, and Pascal Siakam. That's going to be pretty much your whole team. TJ McConnell will probably start. You kind of need another ball handler. Have not gotten one. You need a center. Thomas Bryant ain't going to be a good starter. This team might struggle this year. In a year with the East, especially because them and the Celtics, Halliburton and Tatum got injuries, is pretty much wide open. Anybody can win it. They did not make good enough moves in this offseason so far. And right now they're kind of crumbling. You went to the NBA Finals. Your team just took a step back now for this year for sure. Okay, the Clippers, they really only made one notable move, and that was signing Brook Lopez. He's still a solid defender. He can shoot a good defense. Can't really guard the pick and roll anymore because of his age. He's lost a step. But when you have that good of a stretch five who is still a good rim protector, and you have him as a backup to Zubac, I think that's as valuable as he can be. He's now one of the best backup bigs in the league. The Lakers, they lost Dorian Finney-Smith. Didn't really do too much to replace that. Not sure how I feel about that. I'm not sure what their plan is, if they're going to try and win now with LeBron, or they're trying to win in the future with Luka. You can really do either with Luka, but the real question is LeBron. So what are they going to do? I think Ayton feels like a weird fit to me in LA, unless Luka can unlock him like Chris Paul did. Ayton's best years were with Chris Paul as point guard. As soon as Chris Paul left, it went downhill for Ayton. He was never that good in Portland. I think he'll be a solid center. Again, he needs the ball in his hands more, and he's not really the best lob threat for Luka. So the fit feels weird, but he's a center, and the Lakers needed one, so I guess. The Grizzlies, they trade Desmond Bane. They're overstocked at guard. Were they rebuilding or contending? Because you have John Morant. You extended Jaren Jackson Jr. You got Edie. But yet, it feels like you're still trying to win after you traded Desmond Bane. It feels really weird. Okay? Because now you have KCP, Cole Anthony, Ty Jerome, and Ja all at the guard spot. And you're kind of in between. You fired your coach last year. What are you doing here? Are we still trying to contend with this roster at some point? Because you haven't really succeeded too much with Triple J and Ja on the same roster. So what are we doing here? The Miami Heat have done absolutely nothing. Nothing's going on with the Heat. They lost Duncan Robinson. That's about it. Although they got Kasparas, Jonas in the draft. Sorry if I didn't say your name right, but I think that's a great fit. So losing Duncan doesn't really matter at that point, I don't think. I like his potential better. The Heat pick. I can't say his name. The Milwaukee Bucks, they re-signed a lot of their valuable players, a lot of their guards. Pat Connaughton did leave, but they re-signed KPJ, Kevin Porter Jr. He played great for them. Bobby Portis, Teron Prince, Jericho Sims, and Gary Trent Jr. So that's good. They also got Gary Harris, another solid guard, and Miles Turner, the big deal, but they had to waive Damian Lillard to do that. I like Miles Turner next to Giannis. Turner can shoot. He's a good stretch five, big. He can defend the rim. You saw what he could do with Indiana. I really think he can be great next to Giannis, but you had to waive Dame to do it. So what's the plan now? Because I don't think Kyle Kuzma and Miles Turner as your 2 and 3 scorers is going to win you a championship. So are we in gap year? Because now they have some more depth with Gary Trent Jr. They have Bobby Portis still and all those other players, and you're going to find essentially a Dame replacement. I think if they can find a better 2 next year to place next to Giannis and Miles Turner, I think this team can be a legit championship contender. I don't think that's what it's going to be this year. I think this is gap year. Hopefully next year to contend. The Timberwolves, they kept Julius Randle. I don't feel like he's part of a championship team, especially in Minnesota. Next, he was great in the playoffs until the last series against OKC, where he really struggled. His shooting is a bit inconsistent, and I think Naz Reid, if you start him next to Rudy Gobert, I kind of like that better than Julius Randle. But I just think it's a weird fit still. Julius Randle doesn't quite belong in Minnesota with this team. I guess you kind of had to keep him because he was still a good player and you won some with him and you weren't getting anyone better. Who knows? Maybe he can prove me wrong, have a great year, and the Timberwolves can finally make it to the NBA Finals. You never know. I'm just not sure if he's part of championship team. I love them extending Naz Reid. Do whatever it takes to keep him. He's a great player. I love his fit in Minnesota, no matter who else is around them. Him, Anthony Edwards, and Rudy Gobert. I think Reid is a starting caliber center in the NBA. He's just on the Timberwolves, so they did lose Nickeil Walker-Alexander, a little depth. Rob Dillingham is coming up. They got Terrence Shannon still. I think they'll be fine in the long run, but Walker-Alexander is a solid player. The Pelicans are in a weird spot with their depth chart. I think Jordan Poole is an upgrade over CJ McCollum, but they also got Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears, and when DeJounte Murray comes back, now you have like 3 starting caliber guards. Also, you got Kevon Looney when you already have Zion, Yves, Messi, and Derek Queen. See, it's in a really weird spot. Then they signed Sadiq Bey. They have Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. I just feel like they just have a bunch of players who don't really fit well together, and they're not going to be that good, and they gave away their first-round pick for next year. What are they doing? I don't think they're actual contenders. It's really weird down in New Orleans. The Knicks, I love what they did this offseason. Getting Jordan Clarkson and Yus Booley adds to their depth. That was their only problem last year, was their depth. And Clarkson is a much better guard than any backup guard they had last year. And Yus Booley played like a starting player in the NBA at times last year for the Sixers, so that was great. The Thunder gave SGA the extension he deserved. I don't care how much money it was, whether he gets $70 million a year, $60 million a year. I don't care if he's a free throw merchant. He was the MVP. He won an NBA Finals, and he was the Finals MVP. So yeah, I don't care how much money they gave him. He was worth it, for sure. They kept all their other guys. They have too many guys, so they traded Dillon Jones. Okay. The Magic, Desmond Bane and Tyus Jones. More ball handling. Great. Better half-court offense and shooting. Better. Fixes their problems. They could be a top 3 team in the East, for sure. They have Paulo. They have Franz. If they can stay healthy, Wendell Carter Jr., Desmond Bane, all in the same lineup, Yeah, they could be for sure a top 3 team in the East. Then you have Tyus Jones. The defense is great. Jonathan Isaac. They they could be an amazing team. They're young. I like them. The 76ers, nothing too important. If healthy, I think they could be a top 6 team, but they're never healthy. Joel Embiid is never, so I don't trust the 76ers. I don't have faith in them. I think they need to pick a direction. Get rid of Embiid. Get rid of Paul George. Start with the young guys. Maxey, McCain. Restart with them. Take them to new heights. Rebuild around that team. And the number 3 overall pick, VJ Edgecombe. So I think you should build around those guys. Start it over. The Suns, they're overstocked at shooting guard after the KD trade. No direction. No picks. They traded like their only pick for Mark Williams. Then drafted Kuman Mulac. I like Mulac, but like, why would you also trade for Mark Williams? It's just getting super weird down there. And trade anyone and everyone. Rebuild. Get some picks back. Do whatever you can. Trade Devin Booker. If you can, somehow trade Bradley Beal. Trade Dillon Brooks, even though they just traded for him. Get rid of Mark Williams. Keep Mulac and maybe Jalen Green. See how he can do. And rebuild. Please, Suns, you're not going to win with this team. Get rid of everybody and everyone. Anyone, everyone, now. Rebuild. The Trailblazers don't like what they did in the draft. They already had Donovan Clingan. So now they just draft Young Hansen. If he turns out to be really good, I guess. If they can play next to each other, I guess. But why would you draft 2 centers, top 10, 2 years in a row? Klingen's a good defender. Hansen's better offensively. I do like them getting rid of Ayton. Step in the right direction, as well as trading Simons. That should unlock Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henderson if he can develop, and you still have Clingan, Hansen. Get rid of Jeremy Grant, and you should be good. I would have liked a little bit more back for Simons, but I guess. For the Kings, they signed Dennis Schroeder. He's okay. They got fleeced in their trade with the Nuggets. They got Dario Saric for Jonas Valanciunas. What? There's a reason some teams stay bad. The Spurs, Luke Kornet should be a very valuable backup to Wemby. He played great with the Celtics last year. I probably should have talked about this when I was with the Celtics. They don't really have a center anymore because Al Horford and no depth at big. So they need a big. Kornet to the Spurs seems great. I think the Spurs are building something really good in San Antonio. The Raptors re-signed Jakob Poeltl. The Raptors re-signed him because they still need a center, and Poeltl is good. Deserve the contract. The Jazz. Man, I bet you they would wish that they could go back. I'm not sure what some of the trade deals that they could have gotten for Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, and John Collins, because they'll probably lose him too. But now you lose them for nothing? Like 5 years in a row. Every single trade deadline. It was somebody's going to trade for John Collins, Jordan Clarkson, and Colin Sexton. Maybe Lauri Markkanen. Maybe even Walker Kessler. They're all gone. They're out of here. Nope. They all stay. And guess what happens? They lose them for nothing. The Jazz are in an endless cycle of bad. With like weird player fits. Hopefully Ace Bailey actually turns out for them. I don't know. Trade Lauri Markkanen. Get some good players. Because you guys are kind of stuck right now. The Wizards, they got off the Poole contract. Got CJ McCollum in return. I think it opens up a spot for a young guy. Cullaby. I think they can have an exciting future. Sarr, Cullaby, Trey Johnson. I think they can be a good team 5 years down the road. Very good if you keep those guys together. And they traded for Dylan Jones. He could be okay. That is every NBA team in their offseason. I would say probably the best off seasons. So the teams with the best off seasons, definitely the Hawks. I think they can be an actual top 6 team in the East. The Cavs had a very good off season, and obviously it's still going. The Mavericks had a very good off season. The Nuggets, amazing. The Rockets. If I had to pick one or two more teams that I said had the best off season, I would probably say the Knicks and the Magic had the best off season. I would say probably the worst. I would probably say, maybe not the worst, but the most confusing was definitely the Pelicans. They had a really weird one. The Jazz was not great. The Kings, not great. The Trailblazers was just kind of, okay. In the end, gonna say the Celtics because I like what they got back and they had to do it. So I would say they're fine. As of right now, if I had to say the biggest riser so far in this offseason, I think the Nuggets are definitely in total title contention. And I would say the other big riser, the Detroit Pistons. The Rockets are in total title contention. I would say a big faller would be the Pacers. So the 76ers are just weird. The Suns, no clue what they're doing. I'm not sure if they know what they're doing. So the NBA, it's interesting, it's fun, it's exciting. That's why we like sports. You got crazy stuff going on. You wonder what people are gonna do next. Why'd they do this? Why'd they do that? I'm Will Smoke. This is all the smoke. See you next time.